Welcome to the Liberty by Trade podcast. Today's episode is Shootin' It with the Shirts. I'll be the episode host, TSgt Jacob Albers, and I'm joined by... Introduce yourselves, please.
Yeah, SMSgt Andrew Alford, 48th Equipment Maintenance Squadron, First Sergeant.
And I'm the MSgt Joseph Zawistowski. I'm the First Sergeant for the 748th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron.
Cool. So the point of today's episode is kind of just to get some of our newer airmen more familiar with what a First Sergeant does and kind of dive into really just getting to know the diamond, because you guys have probably felt that, like, once you put it on and you walk around, you get a different type of look, kind of, right? There's people either, like you said, immediately need to just spend their whole day telling you their whole life story, or they're like, oh, no, I'm not getting involved with the shirt at all. And so we're going to, I guess, get into some of the misconceptions of what you've noticed airmen might have about First Sergeants. We'll start with that.
I'll go. That'll work, yeah. So yeah, common misconception is we're only here for discipline, and we're here for punitive actions and so forth. And to be, in all honesty, that's what I was brought up in. That was the realm in the world I brought up in, was around, especially you did not want to see the First Sergeant, at all. That has changed significantly, especially in my tenure as a shirt. We seem to be the go-to and sometimes the easy button now, but we have to remind people, and like we discussed earlier when I was giving you guys feedback, we're the First Sergeant, not the only sergeant. So in regards to, I am not a replacement for a supervisor, a flight chief, an NCOIC, because you are still charged in those positions to do your job. So, and ultimately we're here to provide you with the resources to help make you, or help get you to be a better supervisor or a better flight chief, and arm you with that knowledge. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say that misconception that we're not people, right? I'm a person, I'm cool, right? I'm not as cool as people probably think I am, but we are people, we have lives, we have families. So I think that's some of the misconception, is that we might be that sort of straight and narrow, disciplined kind of person, and really we're not. We're trying to be happy, healthy, make people want to come to work. That's really the kind of the goal.
So how do you break that misconception of, like, yeah, I'm a person too? Like, I know personally, because I've been on a couple of TDYs with you. I know, right? I've had the fun, but like, to your average airman, how do you take this diamond off?
It's the breaking the ice, right? So we got to get out and about and walk around and meet people. So it's always the super awkward, like roll up on a group of people and like, oh, here comes the shirt, and like they must have done something wrong or something on their uniform's out of place, and really you're just like, hey guys, I'm cool, like want to hang out and talk about things, right? So it's kind of just being out and being present. So I would say, for misconception wise, if you're an airman and you want to talk to the shirt, just talk to the shirt, come up and talk to us. Wherever we are, stop us. But if you see with my wife and kid at the grocery store, like, send me a text message instead. Which is also another misconception. You can text me, I'm cool and know how to use a keyboard. But yeah, it's just being approachable. So I would say it's a two-way street. As much as we try to get out, don't make it super awkward for us as being the odd person out in that conversation. Bring us in, tell us what's going on, teach us your job, your trade. Like, let us be welcome, and you'll find out we're normal and cool.
And you said something interesting. You said, how do you take the diamond off? You got to first realize that you're a human being, and that this doesn't define you. This is a tool that allows us to build bridges, allows us to push walls over for airmen, because we ultimately work for our airmen. We do wholeheartedly. But whether you have this on or off, you should still be the same person. This is just a piece of the story. This is a chapter of what has helped make me into who I am today. So, and I'm not trying to give you the Air Force Blue answer. It's just, and if you look at it, you'll hear people say, oh, it's a job. No, it's a calling. It takes a special person to be a First Sergeant or want to be a First Sergeant.
Patience.
A lot of patience, and it will humble you. If you do not have that in your repertoire right now, it will make you a humble person very fast. But I enjoy it. I really do. But it's like Z was saying, get out and about. Yeah. If you're in your office all the time, you're in the wrong spot. Yeah. Because you're charged to be the eyes and the ears for your commander, to know the pulse of the community, of the unit that you're in charge of. And if you can't give them that feedback, You know, I wouldn't say you're failing. You just need to readjust your approach.
That's a perfect way to put it. Just your answer.
Yeah.
A lawyer answer.
Yeah, a lawyer answer. You're not necessarily failing, but it's just you need to adjust your approach to your unit because people want people interaction.
Right.
They don't want to just know your name. So be the kind of shirt that you wish you had always had. You know, visible. You know, visibility is key.
Yeah, that's what I would say. As an airman, come knock on our door and take me away from my PDF prison. Like, if you can do that, because for us as shirts, if the commander calls and asks, hey, shirt, where you are? You're not in your office. I need you to do this PDF prison work. I could be like, my airman came to me and wanted me to go out on the flight line and learn how to change an engine. The commander can't say no for me being out on the flight line with my airman learning how to change an engine. But I can do one last quick click of the buttons and putting in my PIN number to my ID card on one more signature for 10 minutes. So.
You mentioned that this is a calling, and I 100% agree. The brief amount of time that I've held the shirt phone, I've noticed if you don't want it, you're not going to enjoy it, and then the airmen are going to be able to tell that as well. Oh, yeah. So what made you want to be a first sergeant? I have my own answer, and it's half negative, I'm going to be honest with you, but because of some of the shirts that I had, right, growing up as an airman. But what made you want to do this?
I saw people that should have been first sergeants that didn't get the opportunity to be first sergeants, but still molded and mentored those around them, and I thought it was neat. But then I also saw people who were shirts that should not have been shirts. So you get the best of both worlds, so or the best of the worst worlds, either way you look at it. What made me want to do it was I was a tech, just like yourself, you know, all about people, all about my guys, because I knew that working the flight line for the years that I did, you know, being a crew chief by trade myself, you had to take care of the people in order for the mission to work, you know, and if you didn't take care of them, they were the first to let you know that you did not take care of them. And it didn't have to be a verbal. It was really, oh, okay, we will drag our feet now. We'll get the job done, but it's not going to be at the pace you need us to get it done. Yeah. And that was their way of kind of forming a coup. You know, but when I realized that when people started saying, hey man, you're really taking care of your workers, you're really taking care of the people, have you ever thought about being a shirt? That's where the seed was planted. Okay. Was when I was a young tech sergeant.
So you'd been in for a little while. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
He's old.
Yep.
Yeah. You say he's old.
Yeah. I'm the old guy on the council.
What about you?
No, yeah, how to not cuss. So basically, could see someone's got to give an SHIT. So that's why I became a shirt, because you do see the people that didn't, whether it's in the supervisor chain and command chain or wherever it was. I was like, well, at least if one of us can give a SHIT, then might as well be me. So that's where I'm kind of in it, and that's where you do see that change in what a shirt is. So it used to be discipline. I try to make discipline about 10% of my job, because if I'm good and proactive and out and about, learning how to change engines, I fix it at a time. So really it's just wanting to take care of people, because it was when I was a staff and a tech, like I want to be a shirt one day, because in that time when I was staff and tech, the shirt was helping people and the one knocking down barriers and getting things done. And I was like, hey, being a shirt, I can help people and have that passion to give a crap to help people, whatever their circumstance is.
Genuine care.
Yeah, and that's what it was. So I'm on like the final tour of the Air Force, right? So you're trying to leave your mark on the Air Force. What's your legacy going to be? Yeah. So you can kind of go out the door and be like, hey, I took care of the generation behind me by being a shirt and looking out for them and trying to make, because the Air Force isn't for everyone. Some do 4, some do 20, but at least the impression of the Air Force when they got to go tell that story back home, it's not a terrible one, because I'm proud of the Air Force, and I hate to see people that got out and badmouth it and say, here's all these bad things, and you come to find out it's just because someone didn't give a crap about them. Yeah, absolutely. And now the internet has a hold of it. So
I'm going to tell a real quick story to explain why I wanted to be a shirt, and that's going to lead into the next question I've got. So one of my closest friends made senior airman twice, right? One of those. 100% what he did, he got the corrective discipline that he needed. However, it wasn't, the whole damn squadron knew about it, right? It wasn't handled really well. And our first sergeant at the time was removed, taken out of our squadron about 2 months later after a climate survey. So I saw firsthand not a good first sergeant, I'm just being honest. right before that person, best first sergeant, third best, we'll go with that. Third best first sergeant I've ever worked with.
Yes. One at a time.
So I saw this huge switch in our office because of those two, and there was a lot of other people that kind of were I don't want to say unjustly punished, but it felt like that in the office because of this first sergeant that was kind of like a headhunter. I hate to say it that way, but that's what it felt like, right? So that's why I wanted to do it. 'Cause I want to be the exact opposite of that. If I ever do get to wear the diamond, I want the airmen to know I'm on your side. However, when you step over the line, there is going to be that corrective discipline. So to anybody fortunate enough to not have to have gone through the process of standing before the commander with the shirt off to their side, how's that work? All right, let's say you slip up, you get that DUI or whatever. What is your impact on, because we're part of the triad and all that, but to the airmen that don't know that, talk me through a little bit of that. And what is difficult about it, because you got to help the commander levy punishment, and then you're going to go see that airman in the hallway the next day, and you know that they're going to probably feel some type of way about you. How do you deal with that? That was like a 4-part question. But
no, you're good. So you got to be straight up front. You got to be honest with them. Like you're there to advise the commander with the advice that he's receiving from the applicable agencies for that. But you're also there to provide the care and well-being for the member. So we walk a fine line, and you'll hear a common saying for first sergeants: hold the line. It's making sure that the accountability aspect's met, but also making sure that we're caring for the member through the entire process. So ripping the Band-Aid off per se, and not giving false hope or sugarcoating stuff, because I'm very blunt. If I've got somebody in my office, I'm going to let them know, hey, this process is going to suck. And I said, but you got to understand, when everybody else gives up on that person, the shirt needs to be the one that is there, regardless of the outcome, whether they remain an airman or whether they, get out and are no longer. As long as they put this uniform on like I do, we still have to provide that care for them. And they need to see that honesty, like straight up front. Yeah. They don't need, like you said earlier, airmen can see through BS. Yeah. They really can. They very fast, and they will tell if they can tell if you're genuine or if you just like going through the motions. Yeah. Which I can go back to your shirt, because you don't necessarily see the whole sight pictures of what shirts have been through, right, or what, because we formulate how we operate off of past experiences as well. Yeah. And sometimes it can bleed over to new experiences. So you got to be very cautious as a shirt when you're saying, oh, I've been through this before. Just like everything else is a case-by-case basis, a shirt's got to approach everything as a new event, whether they've been through it 50 times before or whether it's the very first time with the eyes wide open. But in all honesty, it's showing the empathy, but also, helping the member understand that it's gonna hurt sometimes.
Yeah, I would say that's the 3 things that are kind of in my head when I go see an airman that's just got in trouble. So the first words out of my mouth are, I don't care what you did, I care about how you're doing, right? So to stay out of the game of you giving me any information, that's my first words out of my mouth. Don't tell me what you did. I don't want to hear about it because I don't care about it. Yeah. I care about you and how you're doing, right? So they already know I'm on their side. And then it's being upfront and honest, yep, this is going to suck and hurt. But what I do is I'm here to learn who you are, kind of where your head was at, because really it could be a mental health struggle, or it could be some other kind of past stuff that's kind of had this attitude, like a PTSD. A lot of times you get DUIs because they have PTSD and they think drinking's the way to cope with it because they watch too many movies. So you get a lot of that, and that's the deep dive. And when we give our recommendations to the commander, that's really where we come from as a shirt, is we give the people aspect of it, right? So a lot of times you'll see a punishment suspended or something like that. And they're like, oh, this is because there's already a financial hardship. That's because the shirt got to know that person and found out they're knee-deep in credit card debt and they're trying to pay this and support mom because she doesn't have insurance for medical procedures. That's the stuff we bring to the commander. We say, sir, legal said this. As a person, they're struggling with money. I recommend a suspension. And then it's that commander's decision that's actually doing it, right? So we explain that up front. So it's kind of I don't care what you did. This is going to suck, being honest, and then just sort of, I'm here. So a lot of times after you see the commander, it's listen, get in there, stand tall, be proud, take it on the chin, and we'll go through this slowly and help you out. And then the third thing I always point out, I look around the room and I'm like, see everyone in this room? These are the people that know and nobody else. And I kind of say that with those people in that room so they can see me say it.
Yeah.
Because now if I hear it from somewhere else, it's only those people in the room that I'm going to pull back in the room and say, which one of you did it, right?
Yeah.
So that way they know they're looked after, taken care of. We're going to be honest, and not everyone and their brother knows, because it is terrible when you got to walk around. Because the biggest fight as a commander and a shirt and a chief and the triad is the smoke pit, right? What is the smoke pit going to decide, right? What is the what do we call it? What's the dorm lawyer going to say, right? That's really what we kind of look at the individual in that, but we also look at it as a unit, as a whole picture of like, hey, what is the smoke pit going to say? What is the dorm lawyers going to say? Does this look good for the entire unit, not just specifically, a person? Right? It's health and morale of the unit, not the individual. But.
All right. So, airmen come with baggage, right? Sometimes the heaviest of that is the families that they bring with them. Sometimes, right? Until I started kind of taking the shirt phone occasionally and getting into this and talking to you guys, I wouldn't have even thought to have my wife have any interaction with the first sergeant if need be. So what? I guess the question is, what would you like families, dependent spouses, whatever, to know about y'all, what you do, and what you can help provide them with? And this is not an open door to let's go
Would you
empty
like
the
my
purse to the
phone
first
over
sergeant. Absolutely not. But you interact with the families too sometimes, squadron barbecues or So yeah,
we're here for you, and we're gonna take care of you the best that we can and provide the same resources that we would from the member, for your significant other who is the active duty member. But at the same time, there are people in place within the unit that are part of our leadership team, like our key spouse programs, and even spouses that aren't part of the key spouse program that we know are go-to spouses that we'll try and connect you with so that they can be able to walk you through it so we can focus, because it might be a twofold where we need a hand, because we don't do this job by ourselves. We have to use all the available resources, and that means, commander, key spouse mentor, all the helping agencies, fellow senior NCOs and fellow NCOs, because it's a one-team effort. You know what I mean? And when I like big acronyms, so team, you'll see it in my signature block. Together, everyone achieves more. Right. And I always use that, and I wholeheartedly believe in that statement. And we're not on this journey by ourselves. Whether you're a single airman or whether you're a married airman with a family, and I wouldn't necessarily call it baggage, but it's just a change of career, and there's my political answer again. Because our families are key players in our success as well. So we've got to let the family members know that they're just as important, if not more, because they see the true side of the member when this uniform comes off day in and day out. What mom and dad is like, what honey's like, or per se but yeah, whatever term of endearment they like to encourage each other with.
Other terms. So yeah, that's what I would say. Any of the kind of the spouses, mom and dad, I would say. So I got a call the other day from a brother because his choice words, younger brother, forgot to call mom because he came home and he hadn't called the family in 18 hours, and mom and dad are worried that he's the plane's gone down in the ocean, but he's just stupid kid that doesn't call mom and dad, right? So you get those, but for the other side of it, like spouses and stuff, you are the center at home. We can't see that person. A lot of times they put on their uniform, put on a mask, come to work, bury it deep down, and get to going on doing their job. So I would say have the shirt phone, or at least have the key spouses. That is our network through the spouses, because it is comfortable for like another wife to talk to a different military wife that's been doing this for a while. I always give new moms the key spouses' phone numbers, because sometimes you got some mom questions. You're like, why is this fluid this color, and should it be coming out? And a mom who's had 3 kids is like, oh, that's normal, honey. Like you're not even 9 weeks pregnant yet, or 9 months. So there's a lot of that where I can have that awkward conversation, but a 22-year-old girl by herself is not going to have a conversation with some old balding dude about how the plumbing works when you're pregnant. So
Yeah.
that's some of that stuff we use at Key Spouse Network. But I always say too is like shirts are always can only help with dependents and stuff. We really can only help. I do say it. I know it's a public network. I can say a dependent can set fire to the front gate, and all I can do is watch. I can't stop it. I can't tell them to stop it. That's what the police are for.
Yeah.
Even their member that's back on the base, we'll just watch it together, right? Because if it's gone that far, they don't have the control either. So we're here to help and really want just our phone number to call, because if you do see something unusual, you see behavior that's not the same that day, or you see stress going crazy, that's something where you can anonymously call us and say, hey, can you check on my significant other at work, at home? They're acting different. That's our job to dig down and get in there and figure it out. Not for them, but all we need is a phone call to say, help me. Even if it's to the key spouses, they have a confidential network. They can easily contact us, and we get it going, and no one has to know the anonymous tip came from their spouse at home, or mother or father.
Right.
You do get mother and father calls. I've had a video chat, like staff promotions. I've had a mom call and be like, hey, I heard results are coming out. When do they come out? So we actually did the surprise with the commander, and I had to call mom on FaceTime on my own phone. I was like, here you go, mom. And like she was able to kind of tell the promotion news.
Yeah.
So you get some of that stuff. We also get moms and parents worried, like they PCS to England and haven't called me in a week. Are they dead? And you're like, no, they're just terrible kids and they don't call their parents. So we kind of like, remember to call your mom. Like that's newcomers briefing 101.
Yeah. Until I got into this, like kind of started diving into this world, I had no idea that a first sergeant would field a phone call from mom. Like that seems crazy to me still, but it happens. So on that, maybe just to show some of the human side of wearing the diamond, I want to hear a couple of stories, some of the crazier phone calls you fielded or knocks on the door that have made you really like, what is happening right now? Because you got one. Because I was with you in Greece. We had an airman fall off a mountain.
Yeah, that is true. So,
Because that had to have been an interesting phone call.
I like when he says third-party news. That's all you ever get is the third-party news. So yeah, we're just hanging out. So it's Greece. I responsibly took 80 airmen to the mountain and brought all mine back. So I'm sitting there. We finally get back. It's the end of the day. We're kind of eating dinner. It's getting sort of dark. And the doc comes by and he's like, hey, Shirt, just a heads up. The emergency locator beacon went off on Mount Olympus. A couple of the guys went hiking there today. More to come, but we'll let you know. And I'm like, mid-eating, like, what? Why is there emergency locator beacons going off on the mountain? And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I should finish my dinner because I won't be eating for a while. Kind of come to find out, yeah, they went hiking over the top. 3 of them went up. 2 of them wanted to keep going, left the other guy kind of hanging out, let us do the last couple hundred yards. Went up there, come back down. He had tried to work his way down by himself and fell off the side of the mountain. So what was good is the team that was hiking, one of them was a seer guy.
Oh, good.
So he totally went into seer mode and like had them all wrapped up, and they carried him down. For us, it was just like, what's going on? So like get with the doc, the beacon going off and all that. So it's like, what are we doing? All right, well, we're getting in the car, right? So earlier when we did the 80 people hiking, there was 2 people that were like outstanding at being the first ones up to the top. So I called them, like, hey, and normally this is how you use agencies and other people, and I'm like, hey, you did really good hiking today. What do you have on right now, right? So the LT was like, what's going on, Shirt? And I was like, LT, what do you have on right now, and where are you? And he's like, what? Like, I'm in khakis, you know what I mean? Like in downtown. I was like, all right, I need you to get to, because we're kind of familiar with the streets. I was like, all right, you need to get the corner out off the main street onto this corner. We're going to be picking you up. We got to go to the top of the mountain. And he's like, what's going on? And so the other guy was on swing shift. I was like, hey, you're on swing shift. What I need you to do is change your clothes. Meet us at the front gate of the base. I'm going to grab you. We're grabbing the LT. We're going to a convenience store to get a bunch of Gatorade and like sort of protein bar, like some meals that we can fit in a backpack. We got to get to the top of the mountain. There's people up there. We're not sure if they're safe, injured. They sent off their beacon, said they're heading to a refuge, but it's like the top of Mount Olympus, like 10,000 feet in the air. So we kind of do that. LT's just standing there awkwardly on the side. I'm like, get in the car. And we take the rental car out to the mountain because it was about an hour and a half drive. Kind of get up there, reaching back with the doc and stuff. We're like, Doc, all right, we hit the base of Mount Olympus. We're going to start snaking our way up the ski lodge, like kind of road. And then it comes to like a dirt road. And we're like, well, it's a rental, right? So we kind of take that up. Doc keeps checking in and checking in. We end up hiking the rest of the way, all the way up to them. And we're like, well, bring them out. We kind of beat the Greek mountain rescue and everything. They met us out there. We all, as a team, came back, and like the Greek mountain rescue's all geared up with ropes and backpacks and all this. And here's a bunch of us like in khakis and polo, like hooded sweatshirts and backpacks. So it was kind of like that, where you're just like, 1 minute I'm just like eating my Greek refreshing like salad with like feta cheese and olives, to like a doc just whispering by like, hey, sure, there may be a dead guy on top of the mountain. Get ready, more to come. And then, you know, in an hour and a half, I'm driving a car across Greece to the top of Mount Olympus to rescue these people on the backside, you know, in 30-degree weather. So
knowing that that's the constant in your life, that the phone could go off and like everything is switched, how do you not live on edge or like jump every time you hear a phone ring?
You get comfortable in the chaos, right?
Comfortable
so
in the
I always
chaos.
say this, like in the additionals when they come on, my briefing is like, listen, you are the shirt, you will be the calm one in the room. So chaos will ensue, and most of the time, if you look at a shirt that's been doing it a while, you'd be like, why is that guy still sitting down? Like, he didn't even move yet. And you're like, just wait a second. Or, you know, emergency comes in and they're calling and everyone's texting and it's all blowing up across like Facebook Messenger, and you're just like, I'm gonna finish dinner. You know what I mean? There's some of that where you're like tracking and going, but a lot of people kind of go to 10, and then it comes back down to 2, and you're like we were saying, that guy in Kansas, like it first started as a panic of like, oh no, what's happened? And everyone goes into, did he make the airplane? Is the airplane in the ocean? Worst case thing. And you're like, give it an out. Like, let's wait 20 minutes. Let's wait for the text message to come back. And he's like, I'm in Kansas with my buddy. What's up?
Yeah.
Why is everyone trying to call me? And you're like, right.
So like there's no problem that you can fix just like that, right?
That's what 911 is for, right? So you do hear the horror stories of like going to a domestic and they got like a gun in their face. And you're like, not today.
Yeah.
Right? So that's not my realm. I'll send in the cavalry with bulletproof vests on, and then I'll be the one like with the loudspeaker in the back, like, you could do this. All right. You know what I mean? We're more the one that's talked the person off the ledge after the lights and sirens show up and the fire department's there with the little catch thing, that we're on the microphone like, hey, come on down. We got hot cocos, you know, whatever lures them on.
Yeah, it's like what we said earlier. We're not 911, and it's okay to miss a phone call, because what your first year shirts, they think and it's just because of through experience. Yeah. You know, and you kind of get used to the ringtone after a certain. You're like, all right, I'm getting there. You know, it's not that we need to rush, but we need to go ahead and like mentally, before we pick the phone up, we're telling ourselves, all right, be ready. Be ready. Yeah. Yep. Whereas when you're a new shirt, you're in the mindset of, oh my gosh, what is happening? Yeah. Because you haven't had that experience and everything to you is new. You know, so you usually see a lot of the first sergeants at council meetings talking about how they missed 3 phone calls and they couldn't figure out who called them, and especially here. Call again. Yeah, that's exactly what we say.
Yeah. If it's important, they'll call back.
If it's very important, they will call back again. Like, no joke. It's like sometimes we get some random phone calls. I mean, you get the ones that are like I was saying, 2 in the morning, and then you get the random ones like, hey, sir, I'm in my dorm room and there's a beeping noise. And I'm like, okay, like, where's it coming from? I don't know. I just wanted to let you know. And I'm like, thanks. Cool, thank you.
So I would say like last ago. So we had someone call, like the supervisor was like, shirt, we need you. Where are you at? Right. So I'm not in the office out doing shirt things, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, is it an emergency? They're like, well, they need this. And I was like, what do they need? And they're like, well, they lost their ration card. Can you get them a new? And I'm like, that's a simple MFR. Like, how do they lose it? They put it in the wash. And I'm like, listen, guys, this is like, don't want to put it in that way, but I'm like, that's kind of like a Monday problem. Like, I'll be back. I'm dealing with other stuff, but it's really not like I'm not in the office. Hurry up and go. Like, you could have texted me, bro. Like, and just said, hey, sure, this person lost their ration card. Can you get to it? Yeah. You know, but the other side of it, I'm like, Are they okay? Like joking around, but a little bit serious. I'm like, are they shaking? Does it look like they need their ration card? You know what I mean? Maybe we need to go to ADAPT and not get them a ration card. How did you fill that thing up? So it's some of that. Just kind of calm everything down. Like, let's everyone settle down. I'll type it up and I'll get on my PDF prison and hammer that thing out.
What it makes me kind of think of is like when you're the first time parent of a newborn, that first cry, you're oh God, like it's gonna die, it's gonna die.
The first kid, and they're like, don't touch it. Like
my son's 11 months old now, and like sometimes I get in trouble with my wife because I'm like, he's gonna keep crying for a little bit. Like, well, I'll get there.
I think the best commercial kind of sums up shirt life. Like you see it, it's like mom on her first kid, and it's like the whole pushing like, the stroller with all these bags hanging off and all this shit.
First time.
And then it's like the second kid, and she's just like out the door with the kid under the arm and grabs like a handful of Cheerios and puts them in her pocket. So that's kind of the shirt, like, Ben. So being calm, because that's what people ask. I live a half an hour away from base, and everyone's like, you're the shirt. Don't you have to be here like an emergency? I'm like, no, that's a half an hour for me to think of what I need to do before I get there. It's time me alone in the car with the radio down going, all right, I got to call this person first, call this person second. Should have, So that's what you see. A new shirt's like, I got to live on base. No, you don't. Escape prison. That's what you learn about shirt care and take care of yourself is I live out in the fields, so I can escape prison and not hear the fighter jets for a little while.
So I'm going to dip into the PA interviewing realm for a second and ask this because I ask every time I interview somebody. I want to know about the best day you've had as a first sergeant, and I want to know about the worst day, or one of them if you don't feel like talking about the actual worst day, because I know some of those worst days are probably, you don't even want to bring them back up and relive the memory.
The best day for me was when I put the diamond on. I think the day I graduated, because there was a sense of, it was a big sense of accomplishment, because I knew right then I was going to try and make the best of what I could and the biggest impact that I could. And now how I did it, I had no clue yet, because you don't have that experience underneath your belt. But if you're looking at talking interactions, it's when somebody a new first-time parent comes and tells me, hey, I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a mom. We just found out we're having a boy or a girl. I can tell you right now, you remember certain numbers throughout your career, and there's certain things that you don't want to remember. The worst was my first suicide that I had to deal with within a squadron. Those ones are tough. It's because if you've never experienced losing a family member or a loved one in that essence or in that form, it is very, very shocking and very impactful. As far as the details, I'll lay off of those for a minute, just because we as shirts were exposed to a lot more stuff that people don't see. So in this case, it's you're reviewing raw video footage as part of an investigation to say, yeah, that's my person, and then you see the end result of the video, so that you can say, yep, I validated that. Yep, that's what the cops saw. So yeah, so we get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you come in and day out hoping that the good always outweighs the bad, and that you never have to see the ugly. But so yeah, I would say my best days is when people are telling me that they're giving me new parents promotions, awards. I mean, that's like icing on the cake for me. It's like I'll miss a volleyball game to go tell somebody they made Master Sergeant, even though they might have seen it on Reddit before us. Unless Reddit or one of the social media networks outlives us.
It's a way to go out, right?
Yeah,
I would. I'm out. There you go.
But yeah, but worst case, you try to. It's not that we compartmentalize it, but we learn to kind of just walk through it, and hopefully we do it in a healthy manner. But like, we have such a close shirt network. I know who I can go to and discuss certain things with, because it's like, who's the shirt?
Yeah.
Who's taking care of the first sergeant? The first sergeant's always taking care of everybody else, but who's taking care of the first sergeant? So, but when that happens, you'd be amazed at how other diamonds naturally gravitate towards each other. We'll drop everything we're doing to start focusing on the well-being of another shirt, whether you got a diamond on or whether you're full-time additional duty.
Yeah.
In that seat, because once a diamond, always a diamond, and that's the approach we take. So. But yeah, hopefully that answered what you were looking for on my level. So
yeah, I would say as shirts, you share in that struggle and sort of kind of been in the same scenario, so that's why shirts gravitate so well. Like, we're our own little family, but we understand the struggle on the shirt side of the house. That's why it's easy to gravitate. You're like, all right, I know what to do, or say, I kind of lived through this, and this other shirt helped me say these couple things, and that helped me kind of get through. So yeah, for me, the best times, they actually happen a lot, right? So it's the little thank yous, like it's, you know, as small as like someone coming to me like, hey, Shirt, I got my orders finally. Thanks for calling MPF.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't call them. But like just helping them through that and calming them down and be like, hey, wait the day, or don't ship your stuff yet. Like, don't buy a house. Like some of those little things, and they come back and they're like, so like one of the bigger ones is like we had a guy just sort of family, not falling apart, but like sister's sick, mom and dad can't take care of sister. So we had to put in a humanitarian, but it's just trying to beat the AFPC robots without emotion and trying to do the heart story like, hey, this is a struggle for a family. So one of the best things is like winning that, right? So him finally getting orders kicked over, like I got orders, and coming right to my office like, Shirt, I got the email, I've got orders. And you could see the relief, you could see the stress go away. And that's like one of the biggest days. You're like, I beat the robots. Like, we did this together, you know? So those are the good days. Any day I'm beating the AFPC robots and trying to navigate through the black and white.
Yep.
Just like Senior Alford, so I've had a suicide in my squadron as well, right? So, you know, with details outside of that, as the Shirt, you do live the entire moment of that, right? So it's weird when, so you're the Shirt, right? And you don't deal with that, right? That's not training that you can get in any sort of school. It's not what you're going to do. And that's really where that calling part comes, is like, what am I going to do? What am I going to run through? Because even if you run through it in your head, it doesn't always work out in the way that you planned in your head. So everyone turns to you and they're like, Shirt, what do we do? And you're like, bro, this is my first time too. You know what I mean? So, and you're kind of like, well, it's time to shut up and act. So you just go and you're doing it, and it's just got to be completely natural in it, because you're like, I don't know. But the commander looks at you and like, Shirt, what's step 2? And you're like, all right, well, I feel like this is the best step 2. And you work with chief and commander, but then all the airmen start to come, and they're like, Shirt, how do we handle the mental health that comes afterwards? How do we get people to get over stigma of going to ask for help? What do we do for a memorial ceremony? And they're like, what's the protocol? And I'm like, oh my God, right? So you kind of coordinate with agencies and do all that stuff, and that's why the Shirts come in so much. Because when we first had to do it, I was like, I need an all-call now. Called up to the Shirts, was like, can you give me this building? I need an all-call with my squadron. And they were like, got it. They had to, don't worry, none of this. They just said, text me the time. So you relieve that. So in that moment, you're kind of in natural mode of just like, this feels right, let's go with this, bouncing it off the other Shirts, kind of like right, wrong. And that's why I like having Senior Alford, who's kind of lived in suicide. Like, it is the Air Force. It is a problem in the Air Force. You know, you have 2 Shirts. We're 100% both dealt directly with suicide in squadrons. So having those rely, but yeah, so the good days definitely outweigh the bad, for sure. But when they're bad days, yeah, you're sleeping on the floor at a spouse's house. Like, yeah, you want to, yeah, I would say the reality of it, I've never seen a person cry like that. It was like, what the hell's going on? It's scary, right? So, yeah, and then living that, and you're like, all right, you need to do better, and the Shirts take care of you. You know, the commanders take care of you, but you also take care of that commander as well. Like, you know, everyone's kind of fair share in what's happened. But
so with that, you know, having to see both the really good and the worst days of your life type thing, to somebody that, all right, you know, I want that. I think I want the diamond. I think so. I'm pretty confident in it. Advice, any advice or things I really do need to know, or anybody that may want to be a first sergeant, what would you, like the no bullshit?
Don't be afraid to use the helping agencies that you're referring other people to.
For yourself.
Yep, for yourself. And you have to take a knee. You do. So, I mean, I sit and I think a lot. So, and it looks like I've got the 50-yard stare, you know, but it's like I've got a lot of thoughts that run through. Like, I look at how my day went, like what's potentially to come next and stuff. But at the same time, it's like I'm telling people, hey, these are the resources you can use. But in return, am I practicing what I preach? You know what I mean? Yeah. And you got to be honest with yourself when you need to literally take a knee. like disconnect, turn the phone over, finding strong additional duties like yourself that could fill that gap just long enough for you to take a breath, because sometimes it can be so overwhelming that you feel like you can't breathe, it's just because you're so full throttle. So it's like, so in those moments, just understand that you're not the only one that has gone through it and or going through it. So just know that there's a network out there for you to reach out to, and go for it. I mean, if you want to be a shirt, then do wholeheartedly, because it is a wholehearted job.
Yeah.
It is 100%. And if you have a family, your family needs to understand that they're about to share your time with the bigger Air Force family, even that much more, and yeah.
Yeah, I would say, for people that are thinking about being a shirt, I would say if you care about people, then just effing do it, right? So you're already 51% there. So if you care about people, you'll be just fine as a shirt as long as you're putting that as a priority. If you got a lot of baggage, like, you can make it work. There's plenty of shirts out there that are doing whatever. If you're a single parent, or you got this going on, or you take care of your parents and they live it, like, you can do it, right? But the burnout is real and stuff like that. So you have a lot of younger shirts, they call, they're like, I was up till 2 a.m, and then I was back into work going on through this and this and this and this. And I was like, well, just take tomorrow off, right? So I was experiencing, like, you can't just take tomorrow off. I'm like, why not? Like, just don't come to work. And they're like, yeah, but like, I'm like, what are the time card police going to come find out and look where you are, right? So, and they're like, well, what about the commander? I'm like, well, the commander's going to know that you were up till 2 a.m. because you probably texted him. And they're like, all right, now the shirt's not in the office, running around doing this. So as long as you're not abusing it, taking a day off, like, and that's what I had said. I was like, last week, it was a random Tuesday, and I was like, I'm taking tomorrow off. I got oil changes to do on my car. I've got to run around and do this. I've got to, turn in the new lease for the rent for the next year. I'm like, just doing it, right? And no one is like, where's the shirt today? Like,
it's like we don't have set hours. We don't have hours. We have obligations.
We have managed time.
Managed time with obligations.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. Like, if you want to be a shirt, if it's something you're like, man, that seems all right, and you really kind of see the chaos in it, and you're like, I wish they could have taken care of that person better, or handled that a little bit better in that situation, then you're 51% there. So just effing do it. For me, myself, I didn't shadow as a shirt. I didn't take a phone until I had a diamond.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. So it's a little bit awkward in that, where they're like, hey, we want you to have some shirt time, but it's also on the other side, I was like, I want to be a shirt. I care about people. What else do I need? Yep. Right. The helping agencies are the experts. I'm not a mental health expert, but I can triage you to go there and knock down the stigmas to get in the door. Mm-hmm. I can show you where the ER is. I can walk you in there if you got a drinking problem. Like, there's no real skills taught where they can be like, here's the CDCs for how to be a shirt. Yeah. Just skip to page 10 and it will tell you how to deal with suicide in your squadron. Like, it doesn't work like that, but its attitude is everything, right? And the attitude in the right area. If you're coming in to be a shirt, to be a disciplined person and straighten out the Air Force, like, go do Air Force Honor Guard if you like, tight uniforms and straight badges. So balancing the smoke pit and the dorm lawyers with the members, sort of how you're dealing with that member, right? So it's going to be weird, but I picture how military justice works is like 1800s, like Navy ship style, right? So there's like a brig, right? So picture this, like everyone's in hammocks down below, and you have the entitled officer up top, right? And the mutiny and walk the plank and all that. That's how I picture military justice, because that's how it does work, right? So if someone is in trouble, they're seen going up to the captain's office. They can hear the yelling through the floor, right? And then they got to come back and walk, and now they're like scrubbing the deck out front, right? So it's a visual thing. The smoke pit, everyone in their hammock is going to see it happen. But the content is like, what is that purpose, right? So taking a stripe. That taking a stripe is more a symbol to the smoke pit and the dorm lawyers than it is to that individual, right? In the sense that they're like, oh, you did this wrong, right? So there's not a status quo, there's not a rubber stamp, but there is like, if you do this level of crime or something wrong, you get demoted, right? That sets a tone across in the smoke pit. So a lot of times you get the wrong answer where they're like, the smoke pit doesn't hear the full story, that there's like 7 other LORs in their PIF about being late or not showing up on time or double middle fingers to their supervisor. Like, they don't see a lot of those things because those are private things between the supervisor and that.
They think it's just
but
one incident.
They just see a demotion in LOR because they showed up to work late, and they're like, well, this is the 10th time, or things. So it is that balance and kind of having that narrative, and because they're not going to say anything to anyone, or they're going to sell the wrong side of their one-sided story. So that's kind of how I kind of capture it as this old Navy ship in the mutiny it can form. Because I have seen it. I've seen a unit that actually, like, because commander kind of went too far overboard and said anyone tied to a group chat are all getting punished. Right? So that's kind of like going in the Navy ship and just going down to where everyone's sleeping, and they're like, everyone's, clean the decks, right? And they're like, I didn't even do anything. And what that turns into is mutiny, and that squadron ended up wearing different color reflective belts. Now the shirt's job, which is also super fun, is the awkward conversation with the commander to say, sir, it's not a gimmicky joke. That's actually like a mutiny forming by wearing a different color reflective belt than what the squadron was. Yeah. Blatantly out in front, like, the mob of them all over there in a circle with different color belts on than the other ones over here, because they're in a mutiny against you, because they believe you punished too many people who are innocent. So that's that balance that shirt gives to the commander, like, sir, hold on, before we, it's the old days of if someone on the base got a DUI, the whole squadron was in their blues at the gate to hand out like AADD cards. That does nothing but destroy morale and welfare of a unit for that. Like, it's better to just stick to the single individual, and most people are like, oh, they got a DUI and they got demoted. That seems fitting. Yeah. That's not becoming of a tech sergeant to, tell your airmen don't drink and drive on Friday, but then you go and end up on top of a roundabout on Saturday. So that's kind of there, and it's that balance and making sure that they're aware that the mutiny downstairs sleeping in their hammocks with the internet is like that, and turning the narrative to him being or her being a really bad commander. So that's kind of
it's just access to social media, is like we talk about the dorm counselor who's gonna, hey, you as a shirt tell them, hey, we need you to go to ADC, because that's the subject matter experts they're supposed to help you. Well, then obviously because of the chatter of, oh, I got a DUI and this is what happened to me, I can help you write your rebuttal, that needs to go away, like, completely. But the smoke pick talk, that is the biggest fight, and you can go outside of the smoke pick, but because depending on circumstance and egregiousness of the accused or what the allegation may be determines, whether or not you've got vigilantes within your unit too. So, like in my case, back to back, and they were probably a month apart. I had an officer that got blasted on social media for trying to pick up a 14-year-old girl. It was a private group that, was trying to catch predators. Okay. And they did so in a form that my guy, they got a picture of him, and obviously they went ahead and before the law could do their part, they handled it themselves and blasted his picture all over any entity that was associated with our base. So any social media page that said Scott Air Force Base or of that issue, you can look it up if you want, or you can edit that part, it's fine. But you want to talk about a shirt having to interject fast and remove the member from a work center.
I'm sure. For
the safety of that individual, because you're working in a unit that's almost 1,000 strong with adults, that have daughters and sons in that same age frame. And now did the member get caught doing something? Potentially. There's a picture that says that they were chatting, but at the same time, that's what the legal system's for, is to determine, the course of action that needs to happen, not for us as individuals to, trying to take stuff in our own hands. Is it upsetting? Absolutely. Yeah. So that's where us as shirts gotta find an even balance of how to deal with the collateral damage that occurs from that, and that can go for a smoke pit. The smoke pit public view as well. And then a month later you've got a young airman that's similar circumstances, but opposite, but finding a way to also provide that safety for them. But again, you got people that have this is what we think should happen, regardless of what your commander's decision or what they think the Air Force says is going to happen. No, that wasn't enough, so we're going to take it in our own hands. Being able to talk to your unit and have those honest conversations of, hey, this is not your place, not your lane.
Right.
We understand you're upset, but also your commander's got to be willing to step up, because that is the head, that is the focal point for that unit, and they set the tone. You know what I mean? The commander ultimately is the one that's going to set the tone for those types of conversations, but those types of outcomes potentially as well. But yeah, the smoke pit, man, like he said, they don't see the whole story. They don't.
Yeah.
The airmen are only going to tell you what they want you to know, and they're only going to tell their buddies what they want them to know as well.
Yeah.
They could be, like he said, 7 to 10 deep in LORs, almost on their way out the door, but they're telling their friends that they're like star performers.
Right.
And they don't want to tell them about all the negative stuff, but then when it escalates to something that's career impacting, that's messing with money, messing with days off, then all of a sudden it becomes a huge tornado. So now I'm going to drag everybody in that I can to my situation. So yes, we kind of give the verbal to the people that are in the room. Like, what is known is what's in here, but sometimes it's easy to overlook the member for the one that's going to go blast their business to everybody else, because it's very easy to point the finger at somebody else when you're the victim.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying victim in the sapper contents or
Right.
somebody who of the abuse side of it, but somebody who is in the process because they have messed up severely. It's very easy to try and drag people in or blame others.
Yeah.
When it's your fault.
I think most airmen have seen that at some point,
Yep.
by some point in their career. So.
Yeah.
You could do captain mass, right? That's a Navy thing. So captain mass in the Navy, you actually read out the Article 15, all the content in front of the squadron. So you do a commander's
Air Force
captain
used to
mass.
do something like that. I swear they did.
We got away
Not
from
with
it.
names, but with this is what happened and this is what their punishment
Yeah,
was.
you could tick the box public hearing and.
We do the status of discipline briefs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those got my first one of those last week. That was interesting. So that's really pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about. I think we covered a lot of stuff in this. Again, I appreciate you guys taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule. I'm holding the phone for the slowest, as far as newsworthiness goes. Group and
I
squadron.
always say the slowest, but they got the crazier ones, right? That's
Sometimes
you get a hit or miss.
But even with that, I understand how busy you guys are. So thank you for taking your time to come out and join us on this podcast, being the second or third episode we're going to air. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully this gains some momentum and we're able to keep doing this. And if we get a good reaction out of this first Shooting It with the shirts, we'll probably try to keep doing it again, because there's always new stories.
Oh yeah.
And the diamond doesn't change, but sometimes the way you go about things does. And the airmen are always, airmen change, and we're always getting new airmen in, or perspectives of the diamonds, or the other way around. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this episode of Liberty by Trade, and we will be able to do this again. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep.